Oh man, what a day today's going to be. I can already see how this is going to end up. But this is what I do. I fight. And so I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm going to fight. Week 4 has come and gone. We've hit the quarter pole of the season. And I want to know what the biggest surprise of the season thus far has been for you. I know what it's been for me. I'm going to tell you guys what it has been here in a second. There's been a lot of surprises to start this season off. I'm going to go over week number 4, kind of start turning our attention to week number 5, preview the Thursday night game, and get out of here. Sound good? Let's get into it. You're locked in to the 366th installment of the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHead's classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 366th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Midday Louie. You're not used to getting this. But the schedule had to be moved around a little bit. Have some other obligations that I need to take care of. My daughter's been sick all week. She just went back to daycare today, which is why this podcast is coming out so late. And so I was like, I can't push this podcast back any further or else week 4 becomes irrelevant. It's already sort of in the rear view as, we're gearing up for week 5, but I got to post. I can't let week 4 go by without saying something about it. And so here we are. We're going to try to make this quick and concise, get in, get out, because as I mentioned, I'm on a tight schedule, but I appreciate y'all kicking it with the kids. So with that said, let's jump into the Gem Droppin Session today. MLB playoffs have kicked off. Things were really good last night. We'll continue with that today. And then we'll kind of get some of these matchups crystallized for the divisional, and then we'll see what happens. But in any event, let's jump into today's Gem Droppin Session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up, get you thinking a little bit. And I had told you guys a couple of weeks ago that I was going to have the background music back for y'all. I didn't forget about that. Things have been so helter-skelter and hectic. I haven't even had a chance to sit down and get all that stuff organized. But believe you me, I'm going to do that because I know a lot of y'all miss it. I miss the background music, my damn self. So I'm going to make sure that we start getting those things back in order, because that to me is a part of the essence of what the Louie T Network podcast is all about. So in any event, I'll continue to work on that. But let's get into the biggest surprise through the first 4 weeks heading into week 5 of the NFL season. What is the biggest surprise? There are a lot of surprises right now, and most of them come out of divisions that we didn't think was going to be very good anyway. So it makes a ton of sense, right? The Buccaneers are 3-1. Who saw that coming? But they play in a terrible division, right? Nobody's really good in the NFC South. Carolina is winless. The Falcons, they started out 2-0, but we really don't buy what they're selling, right? New Orleans looks fraudulent right now. The Carr injury, how serious is it? Can he bounce back? He didn't look good on Sunday. Kamara's back, so I think that's going to help, but I still think the Saints are the team to beat in that division, but the Bucs just beat them in their building. So what does that say about the New Orleans Saints, right? So I think the Bucs are a surprise, obviously. How about the Houston Texans? After the start to the season, 0-2, they didn't look like they were going to be all that good defensively. And then to go and do what they've done the last 2 weeks, go to Jacksonville, destroy them, go home, beat the brakes off the Steelers, all of a sudden they're a very competent 2-2 team with a rookie quarterback playing extraordinary football in CJ Stroud. They've been really impressive. Just that division as a whole, to me, has been a bit surprising, because I thought Jacksonville would be a little bit more assertive, especially starting the season off with both Indy and Houston early. I just expected them to only lose to Kansas City in the first 3 weeks, and having Atlanta in that mix, I just thought they would be 3-1 right now and looking down at the rest of the division. Instead, they lost to Houston badly at home, and they're 2-2. Indy's 2-2. Who saw them going to Baltimore and winning and being 2-2 at this point? And they're literally, a couple of plays away from being 3-1 and beating the Rams last week. And then Tennessee, I thought they would stink this year, and I still think they're not going to be very good. But somehow they beat the Chargers at home. Don't ask me how. And then, Cincinnati, they got them. I expected them to beat Cincinnati. But that entire division, and then, of course, I've already mentioned Houston, that whole entire division is a surprise to me. They're all playing a lot better for the most part, except for Jacksonville, than I thought they would at this point of the season. But in Minnesota struggles, I don't know if I'm that surprised by what they're doing, but I'm surprised at how badly they've turned the football over, and how poor they've responded to those turnovers and how they keep making the same mistakes over and over again. But I mentioned my biggest surprise already in passing just now. It's the struggles of the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a team that made it to the AFC Championship each of the last 2 seasons. We just looked at them as they're Buffalo now. They're Kansas City. They're going to be there at the end. They're the San Francisco 49ers. We know they're going to be there at the end, right? They're not going to be there at the end this year. Joe Burrow's calf is probably hurting a lot worse than anyone can imagine. They're struggling. I mean, this is a team that was one of the most prolific offenses in the league the last 2 years in particular. They can't score more than 3 points. This is the second time they've scored 3 points in a game. They barely eked by the Rams on Monday Night Football a week ago. And what did they score in that game? 15? 16? What was the final score in that game? 18 to 14? What was I don't remember. It was some weird, funky-ass score. They barely scored any points in that game. They're struggling. And that's an understatement. So I'm shocked at Jamar Chase not being able to get off. I'm shocked at T. Higgins not looking like T. Higgins. I'm shocked at Joe Burrow. And again, the injury, I think, is really affecting him. But I'm just shocked at that entire team just not playing well. And it's affecting the defense now. That's a really good defense in Cincinnati. They don't look like it right now. Derrick Henry went off on them in the game on Sunday. They're starting to be impacted by the offense's, struggles. So that's a team. And I've always said this about their head coach, Zach Taylor. I thought he was the beneficiary. And I don't want to demean him. He's done a good job. But there have been things that I've questioned with him, decisions that he's made in game that I looked at him and said, you sure you're really good at this? But when you've got the talent that they've been able to collect over there, it makes your job as a head coach a lot easier, especially when you got a quarterback like Joe Burrow. But now when things are starting to go a little sideways, and we saw this with McVay, how do you handle that? And it's tough in this league when your quarterback isn't right. I don't care how good of a coach you are. Look at Bill Belichick. When your quarterback situation isn't ideal, I don't give a shit how good of a coach you claim to be or how high of a pedestal we've put you on. You don't have the quarterback, you don't have a chance in this league. And you're seeing that in Cincinnati right now. With Joe Burrow being compromised, that Bengals team shell of themselves. I'm shocked because once he decided to play and he was able to go out there in week 1, and it didn't look good, but, we chalked that up to, it's just the weather and Cleveland, they'll be fine. But once they, weren't able to put it together in week 2 and they fell to 0-2 again, and then you look at the way they played on Monday night against the Rams, and then you look at what they did in week 4 against Tennessee, I don't know if they're snapping out of this. I don't know if Joe Burrow's calf is just going to magically heal. As a matter of fact, I know it's not. You can't keep playing on something and expect it to heal at the same time. Those two things don't happen simultaneously. You either rest it and get better, or you keep playing through it and it may not get any better It could get worse. It may not, but it won't heal. And you won't be the same version of yourself that we've come accustomed to. So, to me, that's the biggest surprise of the season thus far, is the struggles of the Cincinnati Bengals. And that entire division, too, you could probably just throw that entire division in there and say, whoa, wait a minute. Baltimore is 3-1, but their only loss came to Indianapolis, so you really don't know what to make of them. Cleveland is 2-2, but they could easily be 3-1 if Deshaun Watson plays in week 4 against that same Baltimore Ravens team that wasn't all that impressive despite playing against a rookie quarterback. Now, they dominated him, but offensively, they didn't do anything that knocks your socks off. They're still trying to figure that offensive thing out. And they've got a ton of injuries, too, do the Baltimore Ravens. And they've done a great job of navigating that, as they usually do. And help is on the way if you're the Ravens. The Steelers have been really disappointing for me. I think I might have rated them too high. But now Kenny Pickett's injured. That ship. This might be Tomlin's first losing season. We'll see. I don't want to overreact. It's still early. But that was a shellacking they just took at the hands of Cleveland, Houston. Wow. And we'll get to all of that. That division is surprising to me. And in Cincinnati, obviously, at the very bottom of that thing. Who would have guessed? What's the biggest surprise for you? Leave it down in the comment section. Anyway, let's get to Slate Skatin. Go ahead, put your skates on. We'll have a midday matinee. Take a couple laps around the block. Have some fun. I'm going to go ahead and strap up my rollerblades, and we're going to get it in. All right? Week 4 of the National Football League. Sunday action. Let's get to it. So we start with the game over in London. Falcons and Jags. Falcons blew an opportunity to win a game that was there for the taking. They lose to the Jaguars 23-7. And really, Jacksonville dominated this game. But Atlanta had their opportunities. I think the biggest question that leaves after this game is, what are the Falcons doing at quarterback? And, oh, man, it's so early. You know, they're 2-2. It's not like they're, it's not like they're 1-3 or 0-4. They're 2-2 are the Falcons. But they've got too much talent for them to be, barely scoring points. Last week, they struggled to score. This week, they struggle to score. And I've already told you who Desmond Ridder is at his core. I've already explained to you, he is not going to be a guy that's going to sling it around the field, throw for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns and 1 interception and lead you to a victory in a 34-31 shootout. That's not who he is. He's a game manager. If you're not playing top flight defense, if your run game isn't dominating, he can't help you because he can't outduel the opposition. He's a game manager, okay? And maybe he'll get to that Ryan Tannehill, Alex Smith status that I've essentially declared him as. He's not there yet. He's not at. Remember, it took Ryan Tannehill like 3 or 4 years to get to where he is now. It takes time. It took Alex Smith 5 years to get to where he was as one of the elite game managers in the NFL. You don't just show up and be that elite game manager. It takes time. The Falcons don't have time to wait on Desmond Ridder, however. You can see guys like Kyle Pitts getting frustrated. And if you're Atlanta and you potentially could suck, you got to know, because you got to go get you a quarterback. You can't sit around and wait for Desmond Ridder to develop with talent like Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson sitting there rotting away, and that window of opportunity closing before you got to start paying all these dudes. So they got to know. And I think they're getting their answer, week by week, slowly but surely. They're figuring out this is not what we thought it was going to be. He threw 2 interceptions. He was not good in this game. One of those interceptions was a pick 6 that was an absolute backbreaker, put them in a really tough spot that they really never recovered from. They lose the game 23-7. If you're Jacksonville, this is a nice rebound after the soul-crushing loss last week at home to Houston, where you just go, what the hell was that? Like, what are we doing right now? A good bounce-back game and win. And it doesn't get any easier. You got Buffalo coming to town this week, but if you're Jacksonville, you feel really good about that performance. Trevor Lawrence was really solid. Still think that they need more from the run game, but all in all, it was good to see Christian Kirk, who I thought has just been MIA this entire season. Was this his first game? I feel like he hasn't played this entire season. No, he's been playing. It just feels like he's been non-existent this year. And this was sort of a coming out party for him. So good for him to get involved. Good to see Calvin Ridley actually catch the ball after a rough week last week. And the Jaguars get it done. They're now 2-2. So are the Atlanta Falcons. Commanders, Eagles, one of the more thrilling games of week number 4. One of 2 overtime games in the 1 o'clock hour. Commanders fall 31-34. Or 34-31 rather, to the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts was fan-effing-tastic. I mean, what more can I say? I mean, he made every single throw when it had to be made in a spot where Washington had all the momentum and all they were looking for was one more opportunity. And they had all the opportunities they could ask for to win that game, and they just didn't. But all they needed was one more opportunity, and Hurts just wouldn't give it to them. End of the game, end of regulation, 3rd and 6, he finds Olamide Zaccheaus. I mean, just a rifle shot over the middle of the field to convert, in between 2 defenders. Every throw that had to be made, he made it, right? I still think Nick Sirianni is too aggressive for his own good. They should have lost this game, or at least been in a better position to lose this game. It should have come down to one play where the Eagles had to defend 2 blades of grass, or 2 yards of grass rather, to preserve their undefeated record. I would have put them in that position to make Nick Sirianni sweat because of the stupid decision he made to go for the jugular. There's no way when you've got a team by the balls, 24-24, into regulation. They've got 1 timeout remaining. You just got a first down. All you have to do is run the football, drain the clock, and kick a walk-off field goal with like 12 seconds left to win the game. There's no way that you throw a touchdown pass with 1:46 left with them still having a timeout remaining and give them the ball as if their quarterback isn't capable of taking them down the field and tying the game up or even beating you. And I thought they came for Sam Howell's life. Like, oh, okay, he ain't about shit. He ain't going to do nothing. We going to score this touchdown and you ain't going to do shit about it. Okay. This ain't the Eagles defense from last year. I keep trying to tell people that. You know what's funny? Eagles fans keep saying we're 4-0, we're undefeated, and we still haven't played our best football. What if this is who you are? Like their brains are so small. A lot of these Eagles fans, they're bird brains, as I call them. Their brains are so tiny. I don't even know if they can comprehend the fact that this might be who you are defensively this year. You could have given up 40 to Minnesota. You gave up 31 to a quarterback that you thought you were going to crush. You gave up 20 to a New England offense that sucks. Maybe this is who you are defensively. Maybe this is just who you are defensively. Have you ever thought about that? Your offense is damn good. And that might ultimately be your saving grace this season. But you're not dominant defensively. Far from it. You'll be tested here. The Rams may test you. You're definitely going to be tested by the Dolphins in 3 weeks. It's going to get interesting. It's going to get really real here shortly when they start playing teams that can score the ball. Like Washington, like Miami. I don't know if I want to put Dallas in that conversation. Kansas City, San Francisco. They see all these teams in a condensed stretch. I want to see them navigate that. But they got the win, and it was exhilarating. It was great stuff. Damn, Jalen Hurts was good. Damn, A.J. Brown was good. 9 catches, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Their offense is really good. DeAndre Swift's really good. It didn't have the game that he had the 2 previous weeks, but he's really good too. That's a good Eagles offense. Don't know about that defense, but they're 4-0. One of 2 teams that remain unbeaten on the season. They get it done in overtime, 34-31. Dolphins Bills. This was another marquee matchup. Well, this was the marquee matchup of Week 4. This is the one everybody had circled on the calendar, and I just felt Buffalo was the better team still, and everybody was mesmerized by the 70-point performance, and I kind of saw this one coming. Not necessarily 48-20, but I saw the Bills, kind of exerting their will and their dominance and reestablishing the fact that, hey, we do run this division, right? We are the New England Patriots in the AFC East. You do understand that, right? And I think for a second, people forgot that. So they had to remind them. Y'all must have forgot. Well, the Bills had to remind you. 48-20. Stephon Diggs went off on Kehu, the rookie. And, the same thing happened in the Washington game. Young boys get baptized. And they had a young boy out there on Stephon Diggs, and Josh Allen repeatedly abused him. And 21 of 25 for 320, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 4 incompletions. Are you kidding me? It was quite the show. Stephon Diggs, 6 for 120 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, they did whatever they wanted to do. Tua was sacked in this game 4 times. He threw an interception. Could have thrown probably 2 more that the Bills dropped. One looked like it would have been a pick 6 had it been caught by Tre'Davious White. Unfortunately, speaking of Tre'Davious White, he tears his Achilles and is done for the season. That is a devastating blow to that Buffalo defense. And really, really, hurting for him. This is a guy that had a knee injury 2 years ago, battled his way back onto the field, had been playing really well, and now he's back on the shelf again. But big win for Buffalo, dismantling this high-powered Dolphins offense and reducing them to 20 points. Their low mark for the season at this point, which tells you what the Dolphins have been on offense, when 20 points is your lowest output of the season. Both teams are 3-1, and we'll see how the Dolphins bounce back after this shellacking, as they'll be taking on the Giants at home this week. Bills will head over across the pond and join the Jags over there, who are waiting on them as they will play in that London series in week number 5. Bears and Broncos. This was another, exciting game. Didn't start out that way. Midway through the third, the Bears were up 28-7 in this game and looked like they were well on their way to their first victory of the season. These were 2 winless teams, mind you, all 4 winless teams. It's amazing that it played out this way in week 4. It's rare that this happens, but all 4 winless teams were playing against one another. So you were going to cut that number in half in week 4. This was one of the winless matchups. 0-3 Broncos, who gave up 70 the week before, taking on the 0-3 Bears, who had only scored 10 points the week before against Kansas City. Someone's O had to go, and it looked like it was the Bears for 3.5 quarters. I mean, or 2.5 quarters. They were up 28-7 midway through the third, and the Broncos scored a touchdown. I thought it was going to end up being meaningless at the end of the third quarter with like 20 seconds to go or something like that. And that really set off a chain of events that gave the Broncos confidence heading into the fourth quarter, down 28-14. You could see the Bears checking the rear view constantly, like, are they coming to get us? Are they coming to get us? Are they catching up? Instead of just continuing to do the things that got them that lead. Justin Fields, I think he played his best game as a passer of his NFL career. Now, I'm hesitant to, I'm giving him credit, but I'm hesitant to say that he has figured it out, or like this is the beginning of him getting hot and turning the corner, because we know this Denver Broncos defense is ass. I mean, absolute buns, fresh out the oven. 17 against the Raiders is the least amount of points they've given up this season. They gave up 35 to Washington. They gave up 70 to Denver, and now 28 to the Bears. We know their defense stinks. So I don't really know what to make of it, but Justin Fields, check out these numbers. I mean, at one point, he had a perfect passer rating after like a quarter and a half of ball. Like he was killing them in this game. Justin Fields, 28 of 35 for 335, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was killing them in this game. But in typical Justin Fields fashion, an interception came at the end of the ball game in desperation time, and he had a big fumble, and that fumble tied the game up at 28. And then, the Broncos would eventually get the football, drive it down the field, kick the field goal, the game winner with about a minute and 45 seconds left or whatever it was. You just can't do that if you're Justin Fields. You can't have that turnover. But big win for the Broncos after everything that they went through the week prior. But Russell Wilson, 21 of 28, 223, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, only sacked once, which was huge in this game. They lost their running back, Javonte Williams, in this game very early, and Jaleel McLaughlin came in and really played well for them. So he gave them a spark off the bench, but they still got issues, do the Broncos. They are far from finished. They are not fixed. They are still a bad ball club. They just met a team that was more self-destructive than they were. And so they rallied from 21 points down in the third quarter to win this game 31-28 and avoid 0-4. Man, the Broncos are not good. Neither are the Bears, who are still winless at now 0-4 on the season. They've got a quick turnaround, do the Bears Thursday Night Football at the Commanders. Meanwhile, the Denver Broncos will be taking their act back home to take on the 1-3 Vikings on Sunday Night Football. Yay, Broncos and Vikings. No. I lied. Whew, that was scary. They could flex that down the road. Jets and Broncos. That's not much better. At least it's not on primetime television. 1-3, 2 1-3 ball clubs. Someone will get their second win of the season. Ravens and Browns. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this game. It was a snooze fest. 28-3. The Ravens get it done. They dominated a rookie quarterback in DTR, who looked so good in the preseason, but this isn't preseason ball. This is the real thing. And they definitely baptized that young kid and showed him what it's all about. I'll say this: Lamar's numbers in this game, pretty pedestrian, because he didn't have to do a lot because of the opponent and just knowing. And I love the fact that the Ravens didn't do a whole hell of a lot. I think teams, like I saw with the Bills, once Aaron Rodgers got injured in week 1, you didn't have to do a lot. Just don't do stupid shit and you'll win, right? Same thing with Kansas City against the Jets. Like, you're doing too much. Just stop doing stupid shit. Stop turning the ball over. Stop having safeties and dumb shit. And just, they're not going to score if you don't help them, right? And you see this so often, right? With bad teams. Just don't do anything. They'll self-destruct on their own. And that's what they just moved out of the way. Like, okay, they got a young quarterback. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is not ready to lead an NFL offense right now. Let's just move out of the way and let the young kids squirm, right? Let them struggle. Lamar went 15-19 for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, one of those touchdown passes was a thing of beauty in the back of the end zone to Mark Andrews in between 3 defenders. How the hell he got that shit in there? Off balance, off 1 foot, falling backwards? It behooves me. That's a hell of a throw. But outside of that, it was a pretty pedestrian day offensively for the Ravens, but it was plenty enough to win the game 28-3. Dorian Thompson-Robinson struggling is an understatement in this game, which you knew he would do. 19-36, 121 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's what you expect. Was sacked 4 times. You expected him to struggle that way in his first start, especially against the Ravens defense that wasn't going to allow him to run around. They got enough team speed defensively to make not life a living hell for him, and that they did. Ravens are now 3-1, the only 3-win team in the AFC North division. Browns fall to 2-2 along with the Steelers. Aren't the Steelers? Yeah, the Steelers are 2-2, and of course we talked about the surprising Bengals, who are now 1-3. Speaking of which, the Titans absolutely dominate the Cincinnati Bengals 27-3. I thought Tennessee would win this game. I did not expect them to dominate the Bengals, however, which they did. This game was never close. This thing was never in question. They jumped on these boys early and often, did Tennessee. They scored 21 points in the second quarter. This thing was 24-3 at the halftime break. And we knew the Bengals weren't, like, if they were going to win this game, they were going to have to hold down a struggling Titans offense, I may add, who hasn't scored points really this season other than being at home. On the road, they've struggled. At home, they've been a different team this season, have the Titans, but they've struggled to score this season. So I thought the Bengals would have a shot if they kept the score low. But once they gave up 21 points in the second quarter, it was over. They weren't going to keep pace with them, and we saw that in this game. Joe Burrow continues to struggle, 20 of 30 for 165 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And they can't lean on the run game. It's not prolific enough to carry them. They need more out of the pass game, and they're just not getting it right now. Meanwhile, the Titans got a big day from Derrick Henry, 22 carries, 122 yards, a touchdown, and he also threw for a touchdown as well. I think it's his fourth or fifth touchdown pass of his NFL career. So they dominate, and they get back to 500 at 2-2 do the Titans. Meanwhile, the Bengals fall to 1-3. Texans Steelers was one of the bigger surprises of the day, not because the Texans weren't capable, but how they did it. Not the fact that they did it, but 30-6, didn't see that coming. That's two ass whoopings that they've administered in a row. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the Texans and saying, is this serious? Are you for real? Is this real? Are you serious? Is this what we're doing? And they got another opportunity against Atlanta this week to prove that this is not a joke, that this is not a fluke. I'm anxious to see what they do, actually. But CJ Stroud, man, right now he's looking like the best quarterback out of this draft class. I know it's early. That's not fair to Bryce Young, who's been dealing with an injury, who doesn't have as much talent around him. So it's hard to, but look, facts are facts. CJ Stroud is playing his ass off right now. And he's using that mobility that we knew was in there, that he didn't show enough in college. He's starting to use it. You know what he's starting to remind me of? He's starting to remind me of a little bit. Now, you can't make this declaration this early in this comparison, but he's starting to remind me of Justin Herbert. There were so many intangibles with Justin Herbert, but so many things that we didn't see in college that we weren't sure about or we didn't see enough of. And so you weren't willing to go that extra mile and make that assumption that it would just happen at the next level because he had the talent. I think you're starting to see some of that with CJ Stroud. He was outstanding, man. Kenny Pickett was knocked out of this game, but it was later in the game when they were already getting their ass whooped. It's not like he got knocked out in the second quarter. He got knocked out of this game like in the fourth quarter of this game when the game was already in hand. They just continue to struggle. The Steelers do on offense. For whatever reason, they just can't get it going offensively. And I knew they were going to miss. What is I always forget his name. The receiver, the short receiver. I knew they were going to miss him when he got injured. I didn't know how badly, but they need him desperately. They need somebody opposite of George Pickens because they really don't have it right now. Allen Robinson is done too. This is the second stop in a row where he's been a non-factor, and he's done. Allen Robinson is finished. CJ Stroud, 16 of 30, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 4 carries, 16 yards. That's in an 11-yard run in there. That's one of the things that's been impressive is he's moving around. He's not just this stationary target that we thought he probably was going to be at this level. He's using his legs. He's making throws. He's got a really quick release, super accurate. How about Nico Collins having a coming out party? 7 catches, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nico Collins was in his bag in this game. Also good to see Dalton Schultz come alive. He had a touchdown grab in this game. The Texans are playing ball under their new head coach, DeMeco Ryans. That defense is flying around. This is what I thought. Before the season started, I said, I expect that defense to be flying around, and they disappointed me the first 2 weeks of the season. Now they're starting to show the defense that I thought they were capable of. I know the Steelers' offense isn't all that great. Falcons aren't either. Can they do it again next week? I'm anxious. I'm actually anxious to see what Houston does in week number 5 against the Atlanta Falcons. Meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Steelers are struggling, and Kenny Pickett's going to miss some time. And so now all of a sudden you got the Ravens coming to town, and you're starting Mitchell Trubisky. That's all bad if you're the Steelers. Worst time for your starting quarterback to go down. We'll see what they do. Both teams leave this game at 2-2. Texans get the win 30-6. Vikings, Panthers, what an ugly game this was. 21-13, Vikings get their first win. I talked about there were 2 games featuring the 4 winless teams in the league. This is the other game. Both teams were 0-3 heading into this contest. The Vikings looked like they wanted all the smoke with 0-4. They wanted all the parts of 0-4 that they could get their hands on. Kirk Cousins throwing a 99-yard pick six. They were down in this game 10-0 were the Vikings. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Are you effing serious? You're going to go to Carolina and lose? As fate would have it, that was not going to be the case. Justin Jefferson said, hey, put him on my back. I got it. 2 touchdowns for Jay Jettas as the Vikings rally back in a huge sack forced fumble by Dirty Harry Harrison Smith, scooped up by DJ Wanham and taking the distance as the Vikings come back and hold on for dear life, 21-13 over the hapless Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young continues to struggle. This was a better passing game for him, 25 of 32 for 204, but the fumble was costly. He took another 5 sacks, including the sack forced fumble that ultimately led to the game-winning touchdown by the Minnesota Vikings. Or I think it was 14-13 at the time, so that stretched it out to 21-13. But big win for Minnesota to just get off the schneid. Maybe this will stabilize them because they've been turning the ball over at a ridiculous rate. They lead the NFL in turnovers. They turn it over every single week, multiple times. And their turnovers aren't regular turnovers. They're either in the red zone, like they got like 4 red zone turnovers this year. Like Kirk threw another 2 picks in this game. He was not great in this football game. That's a good defense that they played against, though, in Carolina. But Kirk continues to struggle this year. And the Vikings, I don't know really what to say. They've struggled mightily. They're 1-3, and the Panthers are 0-4. I told you there were 2 overtime games in the 1 o'clock hour. This was the second. Rams and Colts. This was a blowout for 3 quarters. This game was 20-0 at half. It was 23-0 late stages of the third. And then the Colts rallied and tied this thing at 23 and had 2 opportunities at the end of regulation to win the game. Or rather, 2 opportunities. One at the end of regulation, one in overtime to win the game, and they were unable to do so. And the Rams come back and get the game that initially looked like it was all theirs for the taking, 29-23 in overtime. Matthew Stafford, 27 of 40, 319, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Kyron Williams, 25 carries, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was spectacular. But the story continues to be Puka Nacua in LA with this Rams football team. 9 catches, 63 yards, and his first career NFL touchdown is a game winner in overtime to beat the Indianapolis Colts. He was fantastic. Again, he's turning out to be one of the biggest stories of this NFL season to start. When we talk about biggest surprises, he could individually be the biggest surprise of the NFL. If you wanted to go that route, not necessarily a team, but a player, it's Puka Nacua, and it's not close. What he's doing right now is insane. And who saw this coming? Without Cooper Kupp, mind you, he's looking like a true number 1 wide receiver in that offense. And if you get Cooper Kupp back healthy and he's got a running mate in Puka Nacua, this Rams football team can be dangerous on offense. I'm so amazed at what he's doing right now. It's crazy. Like, you know, they're getting the ball to Puka Nacua and you still can't stop it. And so really impressed with what they've done to this point. As they're 2-2, they easily could be 3-1 with their lone loss coming to the San Francisco 49ers. Had they just went and taken care of business, they had every opportunity, got in the red zone, couldn't score against Cincinnati. And now looking at Cincinnati and how they're playing, you feel like that was an opportunity missed. You could be 3-1 right now if you're the Rams. Instead, you're 2-2, and now you got the Eagles coming to town. Good luck with that one. I think they'll have a chance. If they can protect Stafford, that's going to be the key. If they can't protect Stafford, they won't have a chance. If they can protect Stafford, you can move the ball. You can throw the football on the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see. Indianapolis, again, golden opportunity to be 3-1. You got the Rams at home and get off to such a sluggish start. You rally back and you got opportunities. I thought that Anthony Richardson threw a beautiful back shoulder fade to Colin Granson, and he just dropped it. And that was what you needed. That catch would have put them right around midfield and gave them an opportunity to go get a game-winning field goal potentially. It just wasn't meant to be. That's a tough, bitter pill to swallow, but you got to hurry up, turn it around, because Tennessee's coming to town and you're both 2-2. And this could be an eliminator game of sorts, because clearly both of you aren't going to be good this year. Somebody's going to fall off. Tennessee's been terrible on the road this year. This is an opportunity for you to stake your claim in this division. You've already beaten Houston. You know, you let Jacksonville off the hook in week 1. This is an opportunity for you to stake your claim and say, hey, we're going to be around this year. Let Tennessee come in there and beat you, and it could go south. That's 2 in a row, loss-wise. It could go south for you really quickly. We'll see what happens. Both teams are 2-2 after that thrilling 29-23 overtime victory for the Rams. Bucs and Saints. This was another surprise. I didn't see this coming. Again, this was a coin flip game. Bucs, Saints, I could see it going either way. I didn't see the dominance, though. And the score doesn't necessarily tell the story. This was a close ball game. The Saints were in this thing to the bitter end, but I never thought they were going to win. I watched this entire game live, and I never felt like they were going to win this game. I felt like the Bucs were in total control of this game from the second quarter on, when they scored 14 points. We're up 14-3 at halftime. I never thought that the Saints were in any position to come back and win this game. I was surprised. It was 14-6 for the longest time, and I never thought they were going to score a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion. This Saints offense, and remember, they've struggled offensively this year. They scored 16 points in week 1. How many did they score against the Panthers in week 2? Or they scored 17 against Green Bay, I think it was week 3. But they score against the Panthers in week 2, what, 20 points? And, I think one of those came late in the ball game. Like, 2 of their touchdowns this year have been on punt returns by Shaheed, right? Like, this is not a good offense right now. They're struggling. And the injury to Derek Carr doesn't help. It complicates things a little bit. I thought they'd be better with Alvin Kamara coming back in his first game from the suspension. That didn't happen. Really disappointed in the Saints in this game. But enough of them. What about Tampa Bay, now 3-1 on the season, and Baker Mayfield having this career resurgence? I'm happy for Bake. Let's bring back the progressive commercials, man. I know you can't do them in the Brown Stadium. Let's figure a way out to get Baker back on television, man. 25 of 32 for 246, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Only took 1 sack. That's key. They're still trying to figure out how to run the football, but at least they're continuing to stick with it. Chris Godwin was huge. 8 catches, 114 yards in this game. This is what I'll say. The Bucs have a formula. You know who they are as a football team. You know what they're looking to do. They don't want to turn the ball over. They want to play smart. They're gonna do the little things correctly. They're not gonna beat themselves. And if they do that, they're gonna have a chance to win every week. If they play the kind of defense that they're capable of playing, they've played 3 out of 4 weeks. The only game that they were truly dominated in was against Philadelphia, and they turned it over in that game too, right? Didn't turn it over the first 2 weeks. Turned it over once in this game. They take care of the ball. They do the things that they're capable of doing. Baker Mayfield is spreading the ball around, 3 touchdown passes, I mentioned. They're going to be a dangerous team. Right now, they look like the class of that division. I thought it was going to be New Orleans. That's a big win. This is a Saints team that has tortured Tampa Bay over the last 3 to 4 years. Tortured them. And they go in there and they beat them up good. 26-9 is your final score there. A lot of questions about that Saints offense right now. Not enough answers. Let's see. Raiders, Chargers, 24-17 win for the Chargers. They get back to 500 on the season. Khalil Mack, 6 sacks. That's the biggest takeaway from this game is Khalil Mack laying the smack down on his former team in this ball game with 6 sacks. Unbelievable performance by him. One off the NFL record of 7 in a game. I really want to say that 7-sack game was Derek Thomas against the Chiefs back in the day. But what a day for Khalil Mack. Justin Herbert, 3 more passing touchdowns. This guy's been unbelievable to start. It sucks because if the Chargers are 3-1 or 4-0, we're talking about him being in the MVP discussion this season. Or 1 touchdown pass for him. But he's been carrying this offense this year, has Justin Herbert. But this was all about the defense of the Chargers in this game. They sacked Aiden O'Connell, who started in the place of Jimmy G, obviously. 7 times, 6 of them coming from Khalil Mack, picked him off once, and was able to really neutralize that Raiders offense. Still, as always with the Chargers, it came down to the wire, needed a goal line stop, essentially. It's never easy with the Chargers. I've already said this. If you think you are a fan of a team that puts you through hell week after week, you got nothing on Chargers fans. They go through the ringer every single week. Nothing's ever easy with them. They always are in these close contests that force you to hold your breath, or have to bust out the defibrillator. And this game was no different. Raiders had a shot at the end zone, but the Raiders weren't able to get it done. And I think that's when they got the 1 pick on Aiden O'Connell. I want to say it was Asante Samuel Jr. who picked it off to secure the victory. Let me see if I got that right. Yeah, that's who it was. End of the game to secure the victory. 24-17 is your final score. Aiden O'Connell didn't look too bad. He did get it to the running back quite a bit. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Josh Jacobs had over 150 yards of total offense in that game. Let me go and check real quick. Because I know he had like 80 yards receiving. 58 rushing, 81, so 139 yards close of total offense. He was their leading receiver and leading rusher, which is not going to make Devontae Adams happy. And they lost, so he'll be asking for a trade any minute now. Patriots Cowboys, what an ass thrashing this was. Wow. This was impressive by Dallas. I still think their offense leaves a lot to be desired. And let's check the red zone offense. That's one of the areas Dallas has struggled in this season. And it continues to be an issue. They went 1 of 4 in the red zone. They're moving the ball. No one ever said they weren't moving the ball, but their inability to punch it in the red zone. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Dak Prescott is scared. He doesn't want to make the mistake that he made against Arizona last week. When you watch Dallas, boy, is he checking it down an awful lot. He's not even really giving his progressions time to develop. He's going 1, 2, 3. Let me dump it down to Tony Pollard. Let me see how many catches Tony Pollard had in this game. It seems like every week Tony Pollard's got 6 or 7 catches, or whomever's in the game. Rico Dowdle, whoever's in the game is getting some touches out of the backfield because Dak is checking that bad boy down. Tony Pollard, 11 catches in this game. I lied. That's 11 rushes. Sorry. I lied. He only had 3 catches, but Jake Ferguson, the tight end, had 7 catches. Gallup had 5 catches, and 3 of those might have been wide receiver screens. CeeDee Lamb had 4 catches for 36 yards. 2 of those were probably wide receiver screens. Brandon Cooks, 4 catches, 27 yards. Like 1 or 2 of those were wide receiver screens or hitches at the line of scrimmage. Tony Pollard had 3 catches. Rico Dowdle had a catch. Cavante Turpin had a catch. All of these are right around the line of scrimmage. Like they're babysitting Dak. I keep saying this. Again, another high percentage completion percentage type of performance. A lot of high percentage throws. 28 of 34. His completion percentage is through the roof this year. It's got to be close to 75, pushing 80%. But the yardage and the average per attempt is not there because he's not throwing the football down the field. 1 touchdown, no interceptions. I think that was Dak's first touchdown pass of the season. Let me see. 4 touchdown passes, 1 interception. Cowboys fans were like, yeah, this is the guy that led the league in interceptions last year. He's only thrown 1. That's because he ain't throwing the ball down the field. Give me a break. But this defense, let's talk about this defense because it's the best defense in football right now. I know what Arizona did last week. Forget about that. That was a one-off. I think they fell asleep behind the wheel just thinking they were going to show up. Arizona was going to lay down and they were going to win that game. This defense is for real. 2 defensive touchdowns, a strip of Mac Jones, the mickety, Mac, bow, and a scoop and score by Leighton Vander Esch, and then a pick 6 by Deron Bland, taking the distance. He almost had another pick 6 in the game, did Deron Bland, who had 2 interceptions. Mac Jones was awful in this game, and there are questions about whether he's going to remain the starter. Belichick has already said Mac Jones is the guy for now, but a couple more games like this, and it'll be a Zappy hour again. They got some issues in New England. Yikes. Dominant performance by the Dallas Cowboys. And, right now, to me, the Cowboys are clicking on, all cylinders in terms of special teams. They had a fake punt. So, remember Belichick had the guy screaming off the edge to block the kick, and everybody was like, oh, my God, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life on special teams, to block a kick. And the Cowboys used it against them. They said, oh, you're going to be aggressive coming off the edge? They faked an extra point and got a 2-point conversion in this game. The Cowboys are locked in, man, on special teams, on defense. And even though they're struggling in the red zone on offense, they're moving the ball. They've been really efficient. They're locked in right now. They're 3-1, and they're kicking ass. They're dominating teams. 40-0. Here's a 38-3. They beat the Jets, 34-10 or whatever that score, 30-10. They're dominating teams. They're not just winning. They're kicking ass. They look good. Patriots, not so much. Worst loss in the Belichick era. 35-point shellacking for Bill Belichick. They're now 1-3 other Patriots, and they're not going to be good this year. They're not going to be good, and there are questions, not just about Mac Jones, but you got to start asking some Bill Belichick questions. Is it time? I don't know. Everything was all good just 2 years ago when Mac Jones was a rookie. Oh, man, seamless transition to Mac Jones. 49ers and Cardinals. 49ers join the Eagles as the only remaining unbeaten team in the NFL with their 35-16 win over the now 1-3 Arizona Cardinals. Christian McCaffrey continues to make his MVP bid stronger. 20 carries, 106 yards, 3 more touchdowns to go along with 7 catches, 71 yards, and another touchdown. 4 touchdowns in this game for Christian McCaffrey. He is a one-man machine in this offense that is just tailor-made for him in this Kyle Shanahan offense. He's got 7 total touchdowns on the season. He leads the league in rushing. What can't this guy do? Wow. This is another strong game for Brandon Ayuk as well. He made a hell of a catch down the field early in this ball game. And they set the tone early. Brock Purdy, 21 of 20 or 20 of 21. 1 incompletion for Brock Purdy. Are you effing kidding me? 1 incompletion. That's got to be the highest completion percentage with a minimum of 20 passes. That's got to be the highest completion percentage in NFL history. 283, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, only sacked once. He continues to play at a ridiculous level. I mean, this is going to be a great game. Next Sunday night, Cowboys going to Santa Clara to take on the San Francisco 49ers is going to be epic. That defense against this offense, look out. That should be fun. You know what? Arizona is not bad, man. I know they lost this game. They hung in there for a while. Dobbs, 28 of 41, 265, 2 touchdowns, no interception. Like, they're not bad. They're just not good. If you put the Arizona Cardinals in the NFC South, they'd probably be leading that division with Joshua Dobbs at quarterback. You put them in the AFC South, they'd be right up there, leading that division, or 2-2, right there with the likes of Tennessee and Indy and Jacksonville. They just play in a tough division and in a conference that just they played against the NFC East, which just wasn't good. Wasn't good for them. They're now 1-3. And that, my friends, is your slate from week number 4 in the National Football League. We've already done Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night. So, wow. What a week of football. Let's get to garbage time before we get out of here. So, couple of things. I talked about the injury to one cornerback in the AFC East in Tre'Davious White, who's done for the season. How about the Patriots lose their young budding star cornerback Gonzalez, who they drafted in the first round, to a torn labrum. His season is done. And they go out and they trade for J.C. Jackson, an old familiar face who hasn't lived up to expectations with the Chargers. And so they're not punting on the season at 1-3 are the Patriots. They're not giving in. They're not waving the white flag yet. I think they should, but they're not. And so they go get J.C. Jackson, and Belichick thinks he's just going to plug and play him in his scheme and maybe bring that defense to life. We'll see. Broncos released defensive end Randy Gregory. Could he go back to Dallas? I wouldn't be shocked if he did. I don't know what went wrong there, but it's a lot of shit that happens, when you're new in a situation and you come into a team and the roster's already set and these aren't your guys. You see shit like this happen all the time. It happened with DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona. Like, that wasn't Ozzy, Ossenfort's guy, right? That wasn't his guy. So you got rid of him. You see this all the time. So I'm not surprised. I'm just surprised that it happened now. But he might have been upset at, maybe snaps he was getting or didn't agree with the defensive scheme, whatever the case may be. He might have been vocal, speaking out against the staff, and they just moved on from him. We don't have time for this. If we're going to establish a culture here, we got to let these players know who's in charge, and you're not it. I don't know. I can tell you this. There'll be a lot of teams interested in Randy Gregory. He can help a football team right now if he's healthy. That's something that you have to verify, that he's healthy. If nothing is physically wrong with him, he can help a football team. Freddie Lee, thank you for being a member of the MOBB for 23 months, almost 2 years. Who writes, we had those damn dirty birds. On paper, we should be 5-1, and we see Philly, and we need to turn that game into a Thanksgiving feast. Fans need to back off of Forbes. He went against 3 top 15 quarterbacks, #NHO. Well, 5-2. We already lost 2 games, so we can't be 5-1, but I know what you meant. The whole Forbes thing, I don't really get caught up in the social media thing. We'll talk about that, I guess, later on tonight on the show. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I don't like calling them dirty birds because that's the Falcons, but I'm particular that way. We had them on the ropes, and they were who I thought they were, and we let them off the hook. Disappointed in that, but we'll see them again. But I'm over that, right? Speaking of which, on to the next one. Week 5 of the National Football League slate gets kicked off with a Thursday night football contest between the Chicago Bears, who are looking for their first victory of the season, taking on the Washington Commanders, who started off 2-0, are now 2-2, and are looking to end their 2-game slide. Big game for both teams. If you're the Bears and you're trying to make anything of your season, you have to win and win now. You go to 0-5, you're done. You're already done at 0-4, to be honest with you, but you don't have to be. Let's look at the Bears. Let's look at their next 3 or 4 games and see if they can't maybe start something here. You got the Commanders here on Thursday Night Football. Then you have the Vikings at home after that, and then the Raiders. Like, you can win your next three. You win this game, you can win the next two and get to 3-4 on the season and make something of this season. Doesn't have to be over, right? Your next two games are at home against 1 and 3 teams. You just got to find a way to win this game on Thursday night. So it's a big game for the Bears. Obviously, if you're the Commanders and the disappointment of losing that game in overtime to Philadelphia, the sting of that has to dissipate. You got to turn the page and you got to come out and you got to set the tone early in this game. If you allow the Bears to hang around, you will be in for a dogfight in this football game. You have to do what the teams previous to you in this game do, like Green Bay and Kansas City, in particular, Kansas City. You got to jump on these boys early and establish dominance. If you don't, the Buccaneers were in a dogfight with them, and the Broncos ended up coming back, but the Broncos were down 28-7 because they allowed Justin Fields to be instilled with confidence. So if you're watching, you got to take that confidence away from him. He's going to come in feeling really good based off of the performance that he just had. He's going to come in feeling really good. They played this same Commanders team last year, and he didn't play poorly, right? So he's probably feeling like, hey, we can do some things against them. We had them on the ropes last year. We should have beat them last year. So he's going to come into this game feeling like they can win. Washington's going to have to extinguish that fire early. If not, it's going to be a long game. The Commanders are the better team, and defensively, they're looking for that performance that instills them with confidence. They haven't played well defensively since week 1. All right. They're looking for another performance that reinforces that they're a good defense, because right now it doesn't feel that way. Could this be the game? I don't know if it is or not. Offensively, Sam Howell continues to show that he has what it takes to be the guy in Washington that they've been longing after for the better part of 3 decades. This could be another step in that direction. Primetime stage, everybody's watching. I want to see how he handles this environment. He hasn't flinched nor blinked at the prospects of moments like this throughout the season. Had a hiccup against Buffalo, bounced back in a massive way on the road at Philadelphia, and he looks the part. Now, can he show the world on a national stage that he is, in fact, that dude? We'll see. I expect the Commanders to win this game. I won't give you my prediction right now, but you already know I expect the Commanders to win this game. I'm not going to give you my score and all of that. I'll save that for Thursday's show on the CNN. However, I fully expect the Commanders to take care of business in week number 5 at home versus the winless Chicago Bears. So that is going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 366th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Got a super chat here from Dylan Hinton. Thank you for the super chat, Dylan. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, I'm scared. I'm going to Thursday Night Football, and I'm making the 5-hour road trip. I've never drove for a long period of time. Could you give me some comfort? So driving is interesting. I'm not the guy you should talk to about driving, because I have narcolepsy when I get in the car. Stay awake is my best advice. Don't have, and if you're not a guy that falls asleep in the car, then this shouldn't impact you. But if you start finding yourself dozing off, 5-hour energies work for me. Okay, that's number one. Number two, don't make the climate in the car too comfortable if you find yourself getting tired. Like if it's too warm, roll the window down. If you're a person that thrives or is comfortable in the cold, make it a little warmer, right? Like do the opposite. Put on music that isn't soothing, right? If you're a rock guy, put on some rock music. You're a rap dude, put on some rap. Like don't put on, I'm an R&B guy, so that's comforting. That's easy for me to my eyes to start kind of dozing. And if you're talking about the game itself, don't be nervous. Don't be scared. If you're just talking about the drive, it's 5 hours. It's 5 hours. This is your first trek of that magnitude, of that length. be prepared is the best advice I can give you. Get everything you need. Don't look to make a bunch of stops if it's not necessary. Gas up. Hopefully you have a fuel efficient car. 5 hours, you probably can get there on 1 tank of gas, right? Depending on where you're coming from and how the traffic is. But fill up, get you a 5-hour energy or whatever you use. If you're a Monster guy or if you're a Red Bull, whatever is, your thing, knock yourself out. Get 1 or 2 of those. Have those on standby just in case you need a shot of energy. Have all that stuff already in the car with you. That's my best advice. As far as the game is concerned, have a blast, and you know what you got to do. I'm sending you on a mission. You know what you got to do. Come back with the dub. You know what this is. Anyway, I digress. You're going to be just fine, Dylan. And you're going to have a great time, and you're going to see a Commanders victory. What more could you want? All right. Anyway, and another thing, if you get sleepy, another thing that I find is very helpful, call somebody on the phone. Call somebody and just have a conversation. That always wakes me up. And it doesn't have to be a long conversation. 7 minutes, I'm good for the next hour and a half, no issues. So that's another trick. If the energy drink or whatever isn't working, all the other tips I've given you, call somebody on the phone. Go through the Rolodex, find somebody that you feel like you can talk to real quick, and that'll take care of that. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys on Friday. We'll have our Thursday night leftovers. We'll preview week number 5. We'll go through all the games. I'll give you my winners. And whatever else there is to talk about. Probably preview some baseball, maybe a little college football. NBA is about to start here shortly. So it's a really good time. Right now is a really good time. Getting into the thick of things in the NFL. I don't want this season to fly by, though. We're already heading into week 5. Slow down a little bit. Slow down. I don't want this to go too fast. Slow down. Anyway. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, how do you feel about CY99's play so far? It's been a mixed bag for me. I think he's done a really solid job of rushing the quarterback. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but he's been solid. I've been pleased with what we've gotten out of him from a pass rush standpoint, but I do think he's freelancing. I do think it's affecting Jonathan Allen, which is why I think that's part of the reason he hasn't been as effective. And I do question his effort at times, which I never used to do with Chase Young. There are times where I look at him and I say, that's not good enough, Chase. I mean, this is a guy that used to just run around like his hair was on fire. And now there are times where I'm like, bro, you get in there. Get in that scrum. What are you doing? Why are you watching? Get in there. But I don't question it often, but I never used to question it. So he's been okay. I haven't had any issues with him, but I know some people have, but I haven't. I'm glad he's back. I'll just say that. I'm glad he's back. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. If you are a Commanders fan or you just want to kick it with the kid later, I'll be on at 10:30 tonight for Commanders Nightly News Live. Until then, you guys have a good one. Take care. Peace.
LouieTeeNetwork.